Well, hi everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Adam's Music Box. Well, one of the biggest debates in audiophile circles and in record collecting circles is what's the best pressing of Dark Side of the Moon? And Mike Esposito of the Ingroove in Arizona did a great shootout. Lots of people have done that. I approach it, though, from a different perspective. And that's why I use the word version in addition to pressing, because my favorite version of Dark Side of the Moon isn't the classic stereo mix that's been heard around the world. It's the much rarer quadraphonic mix. Ooh, scary. Maybe. So the quadraphonic mix was done independently of the band because they were probably drinking in the other room watching Monty Python, which nothing wrong with that. I like drinking and watching Monty Python myself. And sometimes Monty Python drinks and watches me. Hope they subscribe to the channel. But he was left to his own devices, Alan Parsons, to come up with a quadraphonic mix for a format that the labels for a while were really pushing in the mid 70s. People didn't want the extra expense of buying two more speakers and different amplification equipment, different cartridges for the old turntable, blah blah blah, and also different electricals the turntable, but it had some popularity for a time, and there were actually more quadraphonic records made than there were surround sound SACDs made. Interesting. So the mix, why is it better? Multiple reasons. It breathes a lot more. There's more clarity, and even if you were to fold it down and listen to it in two channels, whereas just fold it down to come out of two speakers, a mix down essentially. It still sounds, in my humble opinion, better than the stereo mix, because even on a two-channel system, listening to a fold down, each of the instruments has more separation. And it really sounds like you're in the middle of the band in the sense that, here's the piano, here's the overdubbed organ, here's the overdubbed Fender Rhodes, here's slide guitar, here's a kind of flanged guitar, here's Roger's bass, fuddy, beautiful, yet clear right in the middle. Here's Nick Mason's drums sort of on the side. Everything sounds so individualistic, but not at the expense of a great holistic sound. It's different enough from the traditional two-channel mix to be notably better, in my opinion, but it still has all of those same qualities of the warmth that we love. And that's because Alan Parsons, of course, mixed both. He did one alongside the band, one on his own. He made a lot of decisions where he added parts. He put the fader up on areas where the fader was down in others. So we have some extra guitar parts in Brain Damage. We have a much better vocal effect on the us, and them. It's much more pronounced, the echo on the us and them lyric, and all the other refrains of that as it evolves throughout the song. Then on the stereo mix, interesting things going on with Any Color You Like as well, which really, it feels 3D, if you will, even when you're listening on a two-channel setup. Great Gig in the Sky is mixed with the vocal, the famous vocal, much louder, much higher up, fader on the vocal much higher up than it is in the stereo version. And it really gives a whole different, almost more immediate, almost more haunting sound than the more cohesively mixed two-track version. So very interesting. The vocal really, really comes at you. The backing vocals on all of the tracks, whether Time, whether Brain Damage and Eclipse, whether Us and Them, they're higher in the mix than on the stereo channel. And you realize in hearing this quadraphonic mix that it is the BVs, the backing vocals, the female soulful backing vocals, that in many ways is that secret sauce that really makes this album so special. You can hear the various flanging effects that Alan Parsons put on those vocals, and it just gives such a soul to these songs. Now, of course, you can get an original pressing on vinyl from the 70s of the quad mix, but you need to get a quad cartridge and setup, which you can, but it's a bit of work. The band frankly has been hiding this mix a lot, because there was a 5.1 version that came out in 2003. I believe that was mixed by James Guthrie. It's not bad, but it really just is like the stereo version with a bit of extra stuff. In terms of a bit of echo and whatever in the back, where the Parsons quadraphonic mix, it's a work of art in and of itself. And even though Parsons sort of criticized how the mix was done in haste, even he said the 5.1 Guthrie version, it's not particularly adventurous, where the quad version really is. The best way that you can get it is if you get yourself a Blu-ray or DVD player, those things, and get a box set that came out in 2011 called The Dark Side of the Moon Immersion Version, and that had a DVD and Blu-ray of the quadraphonic mix. The Blu-ray in particular, uncompressed, 24.96, sounds beautiful, wonderfully mastered. And even though they came out with a Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon box set the other year, yet again, when don't they? They didn't include the quad mix. Again, I mean, everyone knows that Pink Floyd is nothing if not drama. There's Roger and David who hate each other for so many reasons. We can hardly count. That's a reference for you. But what they have against the quadraphonic mix, which technically, in terms of the mixing, had nothing to do with David or Roger. It was all Parsons on his own. Obviously, it's their music. Well, they'll argue about whose it is. Well, Roger wrote all the lyrics and most of the music. They all performed on, but let's not get into that old argument. But they really ought to put this out. Allow it to be a download. You can even put a 2-channel fold down on Spotify, Tidal, Apple, all the rest of them. People, as many other artists have done with their quad mix, they've done a fold down so you can hear the mix in a 2-channel version. But since they were completely different mixes, it is a work of art in and of itself. So, if anyone in Pink Floyd's circle is listening to this, put out a fresh copy of this album. Do it on Blu-ray, do it on SACD, make it a download, put a 2-track version on Spotify. People need to hear it. It is, for my money, the best version of Dark Side of the Moon. So people argue about the other pressings. If you want the 2-channel, I would say the MoFi, the Mobile Fidelity, is the best. The regular MoFi is great if you can get your hands on a UHQR. Wow. But the best mix is the quad, and therefore try to get the Blu-ray from the 2011 box set and be wowed. It takes one of your favorite albums to even upper levels, upper echelons, and makes it more fun. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe. We will see you next time. Take care.